Finding a safe place to heal, the opportunity that could lead to more support for San Diego's homeless population.
Quite frankly, we're appalled. We're appalled at what we found in these findings.
A matter of trust. The changes aimed at fixing San Diego's water bill system. And request denied. The next steps in a legal fight over the border sewage mess.
All politics is personal. It's all about trust. I trusted John with my life, and I would. And I think he would trust me with his.
Thousands of people remembering the late Senator John McCain and a special tribute along the San Diego shoreline. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Recuperative care facilities offer homeless people a safe place to heal after they've been discharged from a hospital. But in San Diego County, they're almost non-existent. KPBS health reporter Susan Murphy spoke to city and community leaders about a proposed solution.
Currently, there are just 73 recuperative care beds across San Diego County where sick or injured homeless people can recover after a hospital stay. Many end up back on the streets or in the canyons.
Communities throughout San Diego County are in desperate need of these facilities and systems that are equipped to meet the level of care for some of these homeless individuals.
San Diego City Councilman Chris Ward gathered with other community leaders to urge more recovery facilities that offer medical care, case management, and housing navigators. They stood in front of an abandoned county building in Hillcrest. Ward says the multi-acre site, overgrown with weeds, presents a perfect opportunity.
It's been shuttered, I think, for close to 10 years. Why not take some of the excess property that we have now, rehabilitate it, get it up and running and used for a clear and present need like recuperative care.
He says the facilities could be modeled after a recuperative care unit in North County run by Interfaith Community Services. Greg Angel is CEO of the homeless service provider.
Our 32-bed recuperative care facility in Escondido has helped more than 300 veteran men and women, civilian men and women, address the underlying health condition that landed them in a hospital and move out of our facility into stable housing.
According to the latest homeless count, 40% of the county's 10,000 homeless people have a chronic health condition, and a third of the unsheltered population is over the age of 50.
So if you do the quick math and you understand how big the need is, and then you align that with the fact that we only have 73 recuperative care beds in the entire county, you can tell the glaring gap for this needed program.
Ward says funding for the facilities could be drawn from the $32 million in state funds that the region is receiving to address the homeless crisis. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
Another measure at the state capitol would let San Diego take legal guardianship of some homeless people. The bill allows San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco counties to take legal custody of a homeless person who is severely ill or incapacitated by drug addiction. That means medical care, housing, and counseling can be provided even if the person is refusing service.
Right now we arrest them, bring them in the system, boot them back out, and they go through a never-ending cycle. Now, if we bring somebody in who is totally incapacitated, then we can actually divert them into services and start getting them treatment.
The bill is moving on to the governor's desk. Hundreds of people were erroneously charged sky-high utility bills late last year to early this year. Today, the city talked about what went wrong and what's being done about it. KPBS reporter Jade Hyman has more.
Okay, so I want to show you something. You see this meter right here? Well, this one's just fine, but across the city right now, there's a backlog of about 2,500 of those that are broken. The crews responsible for fixing them have been working 3.5-hour days while being paid for a full 8, according to this audit the city is undergoing, and it's all on taxpayers' dollars. A cush job and one of the many inefficiencies being uncovered by an audit of the city's public utilities department. Back in February, hundreds of customers complained of outrageously high water bills, with some into the thousands of dollars. Turns out the bills were wrong, meters were broken, some never even read. As the department undergoes this review, issues of accountability, inefficiencies, and staffing have been highlighted. Johnny Perkins, the Deputy Chief Operating Officer for Infrastructure and Public Works, says the department is responding by making workflow changes.
And I want to make it very clear again, under no way is this acceptable. Everyone is required to work the full day for what they're being paid for. And this is just, some of it is a culture that we are in the process of changing. And the other part of it is standard operating procedures. You got to have clear guidelines and expectations, not only for your mid-level and senior managers, but for your employees.
By mid-September, the department plans to report the first set of recommendations from the ongoing audit, expected to be completed soon. In the meantime, it was announced today that Vic Bianes, head of the water department, is retiring. The search for his replacement is underway. Jade Hindman, KPBS News.
A San Diego federal judge is allowing a lawsuit aimed at stopping cross-border sewage flows that foul the ocean. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has details.
Judge Jeffrey Miller has rejected part of the Justice Department bid to have the case dismissed. Imperial Beach, Chula Vista, and the Port of San Diego allege the International Boundary and Water Commission and a civilian contractor are responsible for sewage flows that foul U.S. waters. Now, Miller said the plaintiffs have the standing to sue over Clean Water Act violations, but he upheld the DOJ position that federal rules regulating hazardous waste do not apply in this case. Now, the mixed ruling also rejected a bid by the contractor that runs the International Wastewater Treatment Plant to be excused from the lawsuit. Earlier this week, Judge Miller toured the border region to get a first-hand look at the pollution collection infrastructure on the U.S. side of the border. Imperial Beach Mayor Serge Dedina says he's pleased with the ruling and the fact that the judge took the time to visit. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
A new report shows California is moving away from a carbon-based economy. This comes from Next 10, a nonpartisan think tank, which found greenhouse gas emissions dropped 11% since the state's first climate law passed a decade ago.
California has been able to grow its economy while it's also been able to reduce carbon emissions. And this year's index, for example, found that we have actually achieved our 2020 emissions reduction goals 4 years early.
Even so, emissions from transportation are up from 2015 to 2016. Population growth, oil prices, and longer commutes are to blame. Voters might get a chance to reverse San Diego's new rules on short-term rentals. Signatures have been collected for an initiative that would reverse a new city ordinance. The registrar of voters will determine if these boxes hold enough valid signatures for the November ballot. A group called Share San Diego, which includes local rental businesses and Host, is behind the effort.
If even a fraction of the effect that this is intended to have happens truly in Mission Beach, it will destroy my business. I'll be forced to fire all 20 of my employees, 20 plus employees that we have there, and potentially find another job. My wife and I just bought a house with our 15-month-old daughter, and this is how we live. This is our livelihood.
City Councilor Scott Sherman was there to support today's signature drop-off. He's one of 3 city council members who voted against the city's rental ordinance. Some kids who commit a crime can avoid charges if they complete a local program that focuses on making amends. KPBS reporter Taryn Minto says there's a similar program in Northern California for adults.
In Marin County, the district attorney may allow adult offenders to make amends with the person they harmed instead of prosecuting the case. That's part of restorative justice, which brings the offender and victim together to reach a resolution. Cindy Ayala leads the program at the Marin County Probation Department.
2 parties agree on a restitution, and they talk about it, and they say, yeah, that seems fair. This is the damages that I caused, and this is what I'm going to pay for, and they agree to that. That person is more likely to pay his restitution than had he been simply mandated by the judge.
She says 35 people completed the program since late 2016, and 34 have not reoffended. About half completed the program after a conviction, which doesn't guarantee a lesser sentence. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
Plans to build a dormitory-style apartments near SDSU won the unanimous backing of the San Diego Planning Commission today. City staffers recommended the project's rejection because it didn't have enough parking. That's despite the proposed dorms being within walking distance of the SDSU campus and transit center. Commissioners said the need for affordable housing trumps any concerns over parking.
We have a housing crisis. We need the crisis to be solved with projects like this that are creative, that is a hybrid, that doesn't fit into all the check boxes. I do feel that as much of the focus that can be on students is really important. And as the applicant said, with my knowledge of students, they want an option to being in doubles and triples. And having a single room is important.
The project still needs final approval from the City Council. Lawmakers are offering the Department of Motor Vehicles more money to relieve long wait times. The DMV has already received $16 million in emergency funding to hire more employees. It wanted an additional $26 million, but was denied. Instead, state assembly members would put the amount in the hands of the Brown administration, and it's subject to committee approval.
Maybe we're at a point where we're seeing some small improvement. But that improvement has to come to a standard that Californians have every right to expect, and that standard is in their own vehicle code, no longer than a half an hour in any one line.
The bill heads back to the Senate. If passed, it moves on to the governor's desk. Pockets of shade at San Diego State. Students taking a break from the first week of classes. We're expecting warmer, breezy weather this weekend. Justin Pavic has more in tonight's forecast.
Well, the onshore flow will be increasing over the course of the next couple of days, and that's going to bring about some gustier winds toward the inland locations. I'm talking about the mountains and also the deserts. Warmer temperatures next week. It looks like we could see a bit of a roller coaster ride here as we go throughout the next several days. Current satellite and radar, quiet conditions once again. La Jolla on northbound to Oceanside, and for that matter, as we work our way up the Golden Coast, notice here around the Bay Area toward Redding, not looking overly active. The monsoonal moisture, again, well off to the east. And even there, it's not that more so widespread right now. For tonight, talking about the 60s, San Diego, Oceanside 61, Chula Vista 66, Borrego Springs, lower elevations points east in the 70s. Mount Laguna dropping down to 59. So again, as we talk about the overnight, we'll be talking about mainly clear skies. There will be some low clouds toward the immediate shoreline coming back into the picture. And again, we're dropping down close to 70 degrees. For tomorrow, just a few degrees above normal. That's been the case much of the month, running about 5-6 degrees above normal as a whole. Precipitation, well, we don't expect to see that much, if any, this time of the year. We've been right where we should be. Borrego Springs at 107, Mount Laguna at 81 degrees. And don't forget the Padres taking on the Rockies later on tomorrow. Again, they're at home here the next several days, so you get a chance to take your pick any day or all the days. Talking about some sunshine again for tomorrow evening. Saturday into Sunday, notice the outlook not changing that much. Meager amounts of monsoonal moisture. We'll see temperatures come down a bit toward the coast, then start to come back up as we venture our way toward the middle portion of the week. Same situation here inland. Onshore flow increases a bit. Could see a few clouds into some of those inland valleys. And then we'll start to see numbers climbing back by Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Over the mountainous terrain, the gusty winds come into play as we venture our way toward the weekend, but otherwise staying dry with lots of sunshine. And over the deserts, we're talking about numbers coming down a bit late this weekend into early week. And as you can see, as we head toward Tuesday, numbers on the rise once again. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic. Back over to you, Ebony.
Gosh, too much. Senator John McCain has left Arizona for the last time as he makes his final flight to Washington, D.C. An Air Force passenger plane carried the casket of the 6th-term senator today. Thousands of mourners attended his memorial service in Phoenix. McCain died last Saturday of brain cancer at 81. Former Vice President Joe Biden delivered one of the tributes.
The disease that took John's life took our mutual friend's Teddy's life, the exact same disease 9 years ago, a couple days ago. And 3 years ago, it took my beautiful son Bo's life. It's brutal, it's relentless, it's unforgiving. And it takes so much from those we love and from the families who love them, that in order to survive, we have to remember how they lived, not how they died.
There will be a public viewing tomorrow at the U.S. Capitol. He will be buried Sunday at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis. Another tribute to the late senator was built along the shores of Coronado Island. This sand castle with John McCain's name can be found near Hotel del Coronado.
I stopped here to take a picture of the sand sculpture because I have a tremendous amount of respect for Senator McCain. I didn't always agree with all of his politics, but had tremendous admiration for a man who was forced to spend over 5 years in the Hanoi Hilton during the Vietnam War, and 2 of that in solitary.
McCain has had a long history with the area. He has visited San Diego several times, and his family owns a condo here. Before Uber and Lyft, TaskRabbit led the way for the so-called gig economy. The online marketplace helped customers quickly hire someone to do small jobs, from assembling furniture to running errands. Leah Busque launched the company in 2008. She sold it to IKEA in 2017. She's now at the venture firm Fuel Capital. From KQED Newsroom, Thuy Vu talks to her about her career.
And joining me now is Leah Busque, the general partner at Fuel Capital. Leah, good to see you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, so not a lot of people may realize this, but before Uber and before Airbnb, there was TaskRabbit, the company that you founded. You helped give birth to the so-called sharing economy or gig economy. How did you come up with the idea to have this online platform to connect people who needed people to run errands for them?
Yeah, well, you know, Thuy, back in 2008, this was not an obvious idea. This was long before you would jump into a stranger's car off the street, right? Yeah. But I was sitting at home one night with my husband. We were getting ready to go out to dinner, and we realized we were out of dog food. And it was cold and snowing outside. We lived in Boston at the time.
You didn't want to go out.
We didn't want to go out. We're like, there's got to be someone out there that can help us with this job. 4 months earlier, the iPhone had just come out. There was no app store. But as an engineer myself, I knew that I could build a platform that connected me with someone in real time to get these small jobs and tasks done. And that's where the idea was born.
And it was initially called Run My Errand, and then later on it became TaskRabbit. But was your ultimate goal in all this to help transform the workplace?
You know, it really was. I have to say that back in 2008, it was a really tough economic time. People were being laid off. Really, I see 2008 as the year where the future of work really started to change. There were new trends in the way people were wanting to find jobs and earn money, and they wanted more flexibility in their day-to-day. And so this idea for TaskRabbit really played into that trend and empowered people in a new way to make money and build their own businesses.
But there's also been some criticism that the sharing economy is leading to a normalization of a lower tier of workers that don't get benefits. There's no security. How would you respond to that?
Well, you know, I don't think that these two ideas of having benefits and security and sort of this safety net, along with this freelance economy with flexibility, these aren't two concepts that have to be mutually exclusive. And we have to continue to work to find ways to ensure that we can balance the needs and wants of these people that are enjoying the flexibility in the workforce, but also can have benefits and also can have those safety nets.
And throw into that the fact that we're becoming more of a digital society. We have artificial intelligence continuing to advance. Where do you see the future of the workforce and the labor market?
The future of work is changing, and it's changing for women in particular, and that's an area that I've really dug deep into. We've looked at flexible job marketplaces. We've looked at marketplaces that empower women specifically to stay longer in the workforce. We've looked at childcare marketplaces that empower new ways of bringing up children to support women in the workforce. And so I think that that definitely is a theme that will continue to carry and continue to develop.
One thing, though, that hasn't changed for women, especially women founders, is that they're still only getting about 2% of all venture capital in this country. So do you feel, as a woman founder yourself, do you feel an obligation or responsibility to help change that?
Well, absolutely. And not only are the venture capital statistics, as far as who's getting the capital, really disconcerting, but the number of women in venture capital, only 7% of general partners in this country are women. And those are the people that control who gets the capital and who gets the money. So I think there's a question here that's twofold. I think increasing the number of women in venture and female investors is going to bring a new perspective to the table. And it's also going to empower this next generation of founders that are underrepresented in technology in particular, but across all sectors, really.
So you've gone now from a founder of a company to someone working in venture as a woman in that field now. Do you look specifically for companies founded by women to fund?
You know, I look for companies that are going to bring and show the best returns. It has been proven that having diversity at the top brings better returns. Since I've joined Fuel, we've definitely increased the number of female founders that we've invested in. I think having that perspective as a woman just allows me to see businesses in a different way and in a new light, and it definitely opens up the pipeline of the deals that we look at.
And then what about, there's been a legislative proposal to require public companies headquartered in California to have at least one woman on their boards. What do you think of that idea?
I think that if those companies are interested in better returns, that having more diverse and underrepresented perspectives at the board level can only drive better returns.
Should it be legislated, or should that be just left to the marketplace?
I think that being legislated is great. There's also an assembly bill right now that has been passed through the Senate in California that is sitting on Governor Brown's desk, ready to be signed, that would require some of these foundations and institutions in California to have more diversity in their fund manager portfolios as well. And that, again, is designed to drive better returns for those endowments and for those institutions.
And on a personal note, you and your husband, Kevin, were high school sweethearts, and you founded TaskRabbit together. He went on to start another company. So you have this household with two very driven entrepreneurs, plus you have two young kids. What is that like?
Well, you know, it's funny. My daughter, who's 5, I came home the other day, and I think most little girls her age would be playing house or sort of the stereotypical thing. She plays Office, and she sets up her office in her bedroom, and she returns emails and she takes phone calls, and so that's what she knows, and I guess that's the impression that both Kevin and I have on her, which I think is a good thing.
I think that's a great thing. Next, she'll just, assemble a computer for you, and then you're in good shape.
That's right. That's right.
Leah Busque, General Partner at Fuel Capital. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, remembering John McCain. Highlights from the memorial service in Arizona honoring an American hero. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The end of summer means it's your last chance to catch some outdoor concerts. Plus, a sand sculpting competition brings international artists to town. Here with more is KPBS Arts editor Nina Garrett.
Watch sand get transformed into works of art at the U.S. Sand Sculpting Challenge. The event doesn't happen at the beach, but instead 300 tons of sand are loaded onto Broadway Pier. That's where sand sculpting artists from around the world create intricate masterpieces that will be on display through Labor Day. At the festival, you'll also be able to learn how to make castles, enjoy live music from local bands, and sample treats from over a dozen food trucks. The Del Mar Summer Concert Series comes to a close this weekend with one of Mexico's greatest alternative bands, Café Tacuba. The innovative group blends Mexican folk music with punk rock and electronica. Together since 1989, Café Tacuba was a rock en español band that managed to cross over into the United States and play festivals, including Coachella. The band will perform after the final horse race on Friday, and tickets are free with racetrack admission. Don't forget, these shows are only for audiences over 18. Labor Day weekend also means it's time for a grand Tchaikovsky celebration. Bayside Summer Nights celebrates the end of its season with the composer's 1812 Overture, featuring booming cannons and a grand fireworks display. The program also features music by Rachmaninoff plus American traditionals. This concert is an end-of-summer tradition in San Diego, and this year's event will be broadcast live on Friday night here on KPBS. For KPBS Arts, I'm Nina Guerin.
Stay up to date on the San Diego art scene with the KPBS Arts Calendar and our arts newsletter. Sign up at kpbs.org/newsletter. Now here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, transportation is the second biggest expense for many low-income people in California. The safety net that could help. And on Midday Edition, Smashing Pumpkins and Iced Tea take center stage here in San Diego. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.